Kind of the old communicator keyboards. I remember things were a little bit nicer.
Right. Yeah.
Good afternoon. This is the GROW Working Group meeting at IETF 102 in Montreal, Canada. If you're not supposed to be in Montreal, something's gone horribly wrong. For those people that are speaking at the mic today, giving their presentation, a couple of convenient things. You have your own clicker. Look, you can make the slides go back and forth. Oh, that's not actually doing what I want to do. But we'll fix that in edit. Let's fix it in post. It's fine. It'll be good. Anyway, there's also a pointy thing. Stand inside the pink square. Please don't do this because no one can hear you. You have to talk into the mic. Exactly. Okay, so I'm Chris. That's Job. You are you. There's a note. Well, I can't get it all on the screen. Sorry. Oh, well, Job can. All right, it's teeny tiny. Read it quick. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Oh, sorry. It's not IETF 101. I'll change that in post too. All the stuff, change 102 to 101 to 102. You said. Or Pearl. There's blue sheets going around. There's one in the front here. Please sign your name. There's one somewhere headed that way. Please sign your name. That way we make sure to get the right sized room, not a stadium. We're going to need a minutes taker and a jabber scribe. It would be great if somebody volunteered. Aha, John will jabber. Excellent, thank you. And the notes. Okay, great. You'll do notes. So just email at the end your notes, or you can use the Ether whatever pad thing, whatever you like. Let us know. We don't have a lot on the agenda today. We have 5 presentations, I think, or 6. Thank you, Job. Okay. Yep. The existing drafts, the AS cones, we sent an adoption request and we sent an adoption reply. Somebody's going to post that back with the right name. And the WKC behavior is in the same state. I think we sent the authors a please send in the replacement name. If we didn't, I'll do that. I'll make sure we did that. That's the 2 current in-flight drafts. And then there's a bunch of potential things coming in the talks. So now we have presentations. Let's start with BMP local rib, who I forget who that is.
Paulo.
Aha. Paulo. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. I figured I'd ask it while we.
Okay, come on.
So the question is a bit of help. And when I could ask this, maybe I should float the mailing list, but there's a lot of BGP stuff coming in from various other working groups to BGP mechanism like Spring. I would like some sanity checks as the IDR chair if you guys are able to take on something like that as a working group. I'm just mentioning it as a plea for help because I see all these drafts and, you know, IDR, they don't get out unless they have 2 implementations, but that's just the implementations people. I don't know if this is sane work. I hate to say I'm asking for operational sanity, but that's.
I thought that kind of the agreement, that's Sue Harris, by the way. I'm Chris.
I'm sorry, Sue Harris, in this hat, speaking as IDR chair, looking for help.
I thought that kind of the agreement was if IDR, as the owner of the BGP protocol, saw something come in that, you know, they were like, hey, that looks weird. You should kick them at the GROW group, and GROW's hopefully operational focus should say, hey, this is something I actually need, or this is something that's actually solving a problem for me, or hey, this is crazy sauce. Please kick it away.
Yeah, these are a whole class of documents.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask before I kicked it to the curb, because maybe it would be like putting a trash dumpster in front of someone's house and saying, I'm sorry, and saying, here are all these things we need help with, but I see stuff coming in applicability out of Spring, and it seems to have one focus, and I would just like a second grow focus. Am I being too practical?
Rüdiger Volk, Deutsche Telekom. I somewhat suspect that Spring drafts are attacking stuff that is not really the eBGP global stuff. That in my understanding is the focus of this group.
Oh. Excuse me. Unfortunately, they're putting more of that stuff into the global BGP peer stuff.
Okay. In that case, of course, the operational sanity check should be applied.
Susan, if you could be so kind to send the specific drafts you want to be.
Yes, I will. I just wanted to ask first and see whether you were.
And then perhaps we can do a 3-week comment period, and then you can draw conclusions from whatever feedback is provided in those 3 weeks.
I'm forwarding to the ISG probably 3 or 4 drafts from the service routing, and I'd just like a comment on, especially since Rüdiger, they are going to, it is BGP LS information on BGP.
Thank you. All right, the floor is yours, Paolo.
Yeah. So this is Paolo Lucente, NTT. I wanted to present my only slide about the status of the 2 drafts about local RIB and ADRIB out in BMP. I don't want to tire you again with the context that we have been explaining for the past few meetings. And so I wanted just to share with you what is the status. So first of all, I'm coming with no edits or no updates to the draft in this meeting, which I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. It could be a good thing since there was plenty of interest shown, and we got feedback, and the feedback was processed over time. And as far as I know, there is no outstanding issues. There was recently comment from, so the only, let's say, outstanding thing is that there was a comment, very extensive, from Hank Smith from Nokia on the list. And I think after some discussion, it emerged that, what Hank is proposing, it's a part of a different work, right? So it should not be really compounded with these 2 drafts. And it is, like this morning, he was proposing a text for a different draft. So I'm more than, tiring you with more words. I'm kind of looking for feedback from you guys, like what shall we do with these drafts?
Hi, Jeff Haas. So Juniper does have both of these being implemented right now. What I would suggest is to hold on to it for a little bit. I suspect we'll have a couple of minor comments coming out. Small things like for the rib out, when the peer goes down, do you just simply say we're down and don't have any messages trickle out? And given that some implementations have, some of these systems a little bit decoupled, the messages may still trickle out even after you say you're down. Small things like that.
Right.
But other than that, things are mostly looking good.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Randy Bush, J. Arcus. I've gotten lost.
Okay.
There are,
You are in Montreal.
I'm not even sure I can enumerate the BMP drafts and things and how they relate to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And either something stitching it all together or a state of the play or something might be helpful for idiots like I.
Yeah, I wanted just to reply very briefly. I mean, to that, I agree.
And I'm not saying any of them are bad.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just saying
Yes, yes,
fire hose.
yes, yes. So yeah, I agree to that. I think so far we just I think managed to not compound too many things together, so that preventing a stall. And I'm curious to see if the new BMP draft will be adopted and what they are about and things like that.
John Scudder. Unfortunately, Hank isn't here to respond to your bullet there.
Mhm.
And I don't know what he would say. My impression from reading the mailing list traffic was not, I didn't get the impression that it was sort of forward-looking and non-competing in the sense of, I would guess that maybe if Hank were here, he'd say, actually, why don't you adopt the encoding that I proposed? In fact, I thought that's what he started out saying, was like proposing an alternative encoding, not alternative functionality, just alternative encoding. And I will also say that mea culpa, I was quite tardy in reading that whole message thread, but having done so, I will say that, basically what Hank says in nicer language is, it was a mistake to not TLV, this particular message. And speaking as the hack who hacked that hack, I agree with him. I did it wrong in the first version, and I think that his version is the right version. So, it might not be a bad idea to think about adopting that encoding. At least have the conversation. With well-developed drafts like yours, a lot depends on, what's the state of play in terms of deployment. If people tell me, oh, there's already deployment of this, people are using it, then that's a powerful argument. But I think we should have the conversation.
Right.
Thank you.
And to reply to that, let's say, so first of all, I've had a very quick read of the draft from Hank from this morning, and I like it, right? Okay. And I agree with you with the fact that there should be some TLV approach in the monitor message. So that's great. What I would say is that as far as I know, you said or Jeff said that as Juniper, you have implemented already these two drafts. Cisco has done as well. And from some conversation that I had with Hank, I understand that also Nokia has implemented this draft as well. Plus, I have implemented them in PMSCCT as well. So we do have some implementations there. So my only proposal would be like, so if we do this TLV, so the Edge Reboot and the local rib is a much wanted functionality, at least from me as an operator, for example. While I will fully support what Hank is saying, right? I think we should really let this draft go because, wrap them up as they are. That would be my opinion, or with the minor changes and things like that, so that at least we capitalize on what has already been built, and then we can make, the next step. We can start working on the new draft and get new implementations and things like that. So that would be, my view. I don't know if there is agreement or not on that.
Randy Bourgeois, Jane Arcus again. Two things. One is, I think John hit the nail on the head, and I said on list. I think what Hank is saying is syntax, not semantics. And, there are a bunch of TLV addicts in the room, so what can I say? I think I'm numbered among them. But secondly, John's question of deployment. It is not widely deployed for two tragic reasons. One is an implementation that sucks caterpillar snot, and the other is an implementation that doesn't scale. But my question, I think that is the wrong question. All of us are playing with it, but have people built significant tool layers on top of it? That's the people who will die if we change the format. The only one I know is whatever they're calling it this week. It was BMP Mon once upon a time, Snazzle or something. I can't keep track. But Serpil and Tim, it's GUI to death thingy. That's the only tool layer I know that's seriously on top of it. Does anybody else have tool layers on top?
Me.
PM, ACCT.
And entity is using that. So
Okay.
Job Snyders, if I may interject. What I understood from Hank's draft is that on the collector side, you can seamlessly either receive the old format or his proposed new format. So on the collector side, ingesting either one doesn't require configuration. On the sending side, you need to configure, I want to send BMP in the new TLV format. So
that's whitewashing how you can convert or forgo how you can migrate. The fact is, my software tool set, which doesn't exist, my software tool set does the old format. You change the format, I have work to do. Right, that's all. I'm not saying that is impossible. I'm just saying that is the question that should be considered if proposing changing the format. That's all. I'm not saying it's good or bad, green or blue.
Yeah.
John Scudder. I realized after I sat down that I might have given the wrong impression that I was saying, if we have implementations that are done, then we should just automatically, that's the trump card, and we should automatically go ahead with the draft as written, which, I just think it puts us somewhere in the middle of the discussion spectrum, because of course, like, part of the flip side is if, let's say we, Juniper, go ahead and ship our implementation of the draft as written. And then the working group say, yeah, but actually we kind of like the TLV format better, so we're going to move to that. That leaves us supporting, into the infinite future, two different formats, two different code paths. And I kind of would rather take the relatively short hit of updating to the standard version that is what the group actually wants to end up with. It's a conversation. There's not an obvious right or wrong answer.
I agree with you.
Jeff, so I am arguing with John a little bit. If we ship the loc rib, if we ship the rib out, no, great. I think the bigger question is, what do we do about the point that Hank's raising, which he's saying, here's the thing, we should go with some sub-TLVs, and then open conversation.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff that needs to be done, for the most part, is easy things. Shove around, a bit of a message overhead, add an extra TLV in the middle. The things could be turned on in either mode. If you need the support, just standard rib out, loc rib. Use one option, get it out that encoding. If you want the extended stuff, you can get the extended coding. So I don't see a huge obstacle to finishing off the work that we have for loc rib, rib out, and then as the next step, trying to figure out in a backwards compatible way what the additional sub-TLVs would look like, the additional information that should go in there. Because I think that Hank's given some examples like bit flags. I think the idea is nice. I think there's a lot of implementation details that really need to be shaken out before we even start writing code. But I don't think this is a stopping thing.
Yeah, and I agree essentially with your position.
Rüdiger Volk, for the question of deployed base, I think one should actually look exactly at, well, okay, how many consumers of the old style are out there, and check, well, okay, how many consumers of any of the new drafts are actually there. Kind of, if one considers shifting and moving on to something like Henk is proposing, kind of if there are only very few consumers for the new drafts, that's actually a different picture compared to something where, well, okay, everybody would have to move.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paulo. There you go. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Robin from Huawei. This my presentation is the network. Oh, sorry. Not these slides.
Oh, not these? Well, that was on the list. I was just going by the order I had. It's not my fault.
Network monitoring protocol.
Oh, let's do that one at the end.
This one first. This is not the first. This next. I mean, so this is not my presentation.
Oh,
yeah, that's.
Sorry. Well, let's switch up.
Okay.
We can make this work. Oh, wait, I did it again. Hold on. Try that.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shen Wang from Huawei. I'm going to present the draft of VPN label monitoring using BMP. Okay. The use case. Okay. Some our customer manage their network using MPLS VPN, and they want to insert some explicit into the network gateway to steer traffic, but now they want to know which VPN label will be used by the router server or controller. This is the use case from some of our customers. Okay. We will introduce current approach of collecting VPN labels. In this figure, okay, now our customer monitor each border gate router using BMP, and they establish one VPN v4 session from router server to edge border router, and extract the VPN label from the VPN v4 routes. Issue. Sorry. Our customers say they don't want to collect so many VPN v4 routes. They only want IPv4 routes from VRF instance. This is the figure they intend to do. Okay, they don't need to monitor VPN v4 routes, but in current BMP specification, when we monitor the BGP session between PE and CEs, this peer is RD instance peer, and there are no VPN label in such BMP message. Okay. So we propose one method to collect the VPN label. Is we want to extend the BMP peer up message using some TLV to carry VPN label, and when the BGP session between CE and the PE go up, then the peer up message can carry the all kinds of VPN label to BMP server. Benefit, okay. Compared to current method used in the network, our solution can reduce the amount of label report per label per interface, and we can eliminate the process of label strip step, improve the root process efficiency. Regarding to this, if we use this method, then the P1 will send the VPN waveform route to P2. Then he will copy one route to route server via VPN waveform peer session. Any question? Okay.
Jeff, I don't think BMP is probably the right tool for this. So the example you give, the open message, putting on VPN label information, doesn't help you in the circumstances where this is per prefix labels, where the label is the same potentially for the entire VRF. It's helpful, but that's not a guaranteed scenario. Most people we know that need to do this sort of thing will just simply do standard BGP peering and just get the BGP VPN v4 routes, that way. BMP is mostly helpful when you have route hiding that happens because you're getting more than one path. In the case of VPN v4, that's not usually a problem.
Okay.
If you'd like more time to talk about it, I can talk to you after the session.
Okay, I will talk with you offline. Okay. For this requirement, maybe there are many options, but our customers say they currently use BMP to manage their work. Then they want to extend the BMP to enhance their use case. Okay.
Okay, Robin from Huawei. In fact, this is the one work related with the control plane telemetry, so that we tried to utilize the BMP to cover more use cases. In fact, this is the use cases we communicated with the Chinese Tencent company. Yeah, so I think this is a typical use case they would like to use BMP to solve this issue. But we don't sure. We are not sure if this is a common use cases or not. So that's we present here. So we would like to get. I think the Jeff. I think that's propose this the ideas. So would like more discussion about this one. Okay.
Excuse this, Randy Bush, excuse this slightly snarky humor. Why not put it in the DNS? And my point isn't to really put it in the DNS. My point is to further John's point. Is this the appropriate place to put it aren't we just, oh, let's put it in BGP, right? BMP, right? Which is a child of BGP. So, there are a couple places that we just put it places, and DNS and BGP family are the two big ones. I think that's what's happening.
Julia Fock, Deutsche Telekom. Would it be kind of possible and realistic to essentially ask the model of the BGP instance? Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for your time. We'll continue a discussion on the mailing list. Yeah.
That one. There we go. Sorry.
No problem. There you go.
I'm going to present the job to monitor BGP parameter using BMP. Currently, BMP is popular to use in many network, and then we encounter. Oh yeah, do you disagree? Okay. Our customer, when our customer use the BMP, they encountered some issue, and then ask many requirements to our company. This is one requirement they ask for. Okay. Now this job. Okay, this motivation of this job. Okay, regarding BGP optional parameter in current specification, BMP only monitor the capability enabled on the device. When no enabled on the device, the BMP server cannot see the what capability is. If we can collect the enable capability and the no enableability to the BMP server, then we can see all the BGP operational parameters. Then we can do whole network optimization. Regarding BGP default parameter, as one of the concern from operator, when in the multi-vendor environment, some default configuration or behavior of the service are vendor specific. In this scenario, we encounter some problem. In this page, we have a case, but sorry, no figure for this case. This job proposed the extension of BMP initialization message. Currently, the BMP initial message only provides the information of vendor software version and the system name of the router. This job defined two new TLOs. One is BGP operational parameters, and the other is BGP default behavior parameters. Regarding BGP optional parameter TLOV, the information field is used to specify all the BMP optional parameters that have been enabled or not enabled at the monitor device. And the format is below the from IFC 4271. Regarding BGP default behavior parameter, the information field contains a list of default behavior parameter. Some proposed parameter list this page. Okay. Next, any question? Okay.
Rüdiger Volk, Deutsche Telekom. I think the question I asked last applies to this as well. Actually, I think everything that you want to transfer in BMP should be available in the BGP models. And yes, BMP is not a thing to ask infrastructure about characteristics and status and parameters. It is for catching and transmitting flying data. What you are looking here is stuff that you should find in the young models, and you should use the appropriate technique for querying the young model. Instead of inventing new PDUs and data structures and push them into into a protocol that is not really used for that. And if you find any parameter that you are looking for that is not covered by the existing young models, well, okay, that's valid input for improving the young model.
I think this topic related maybe my next presentation. Yeah, maybe here we can have more discussion about this one. That's what's the relationship between the young and the BMP. Yeah, and what's the future? Maybe what's the possible action? Yeah.
Any other comments, concerns, questions?
So Chris Morrow, Google. It seems like a lot of the focus of this is I have N number of vendors and I would like to deploy them interoperably, and they pick different versions of default. And I don't understand that, so I need to get it out of BMP, where I would think you would test the platform first and say, this is the configuration I'm going to deploy. And I know what the defaults are because I have set them, right? I like deterministic behavior in my network, not crazy sauce. So I don't know that I would care to put this in BMP, really, and the device probably is going to lie to me anyway. So I'll just test it and make sure it works the way I expect and configure it exactly the way I want to have it. And maybe I do that with Yang, whatever, but yeah, that's just me.
Randy Bush, IJ Arcus. I think it's what the defaults for a device are across multiple vendors, what my configurations are, what's been pushed, what has been mispushed, et cetera, et cetera. And what I, of course, would like is some presentation format, which I can fetch, which will give that to me in as vendor independent manner as possible. And I thought that's, and to amplify Rudiger's statement, I thought that's why I've been dealing with Yang and OpenConfig for these last couple of years and putting my money over there. So this seems like the same chicken in a different sauce. And that sauce kind of got sold to me and it appeals to me. So tell me why I'm wrong. Here's somebody who tells me why I'm wrong often.
Jeff Haas, and I'm here to tell you that you're mostly right. It does. So having been one of those guys who have written tools, consuming routing data and having to cross-correlate it with things, the point Rudiger makes of, should I put this stuff in my Yang model? What do I need to cross-correlate to make things agree with each other? The comment I offer on this draft is there's probably too much in it. But the thing that I disagree with is this is not completely useless. Somewhat to Chris's point, or at least his issue, you want enough information in your BMP data stream to be able to get the most out of the data stream itself without needing to rely on some ephemeral state that may be coming from Yang and having to go fetch it somewhere else. Try to keep the things that are necessary to consume the BMP data in the BMP ecosystem. So for example, the capabilities that were exchanged is a great example of a thing that you may actually want. Very similarly, you may want to know what capabilities you actually decided to use, since I tell you what my capabilities are, but that doesn't mean that what I've used. So my advice for this draft is probably too much. Keep the things there that are necessary to interpret the BMP data. Don't put extra stuff in. But some stuff is still useful.
Thank you.
Finally. Okay, Robin again and again. Okay, this is my topic. This is a network monitoring protocol. Yeah, so this, in fact, this is the draft is proposed without to define which working group it belongs to. Yeah, because we think it's related with BMP, but and also it's not limited to the BGP monitoring. So that we now that is called as so we not determine this the working group. So for yesterday I present in OPSA WG. So today I also here would like to collect more comments and feedback. Okay. Okay. So this is the purpose of our work. In fact, from last year I worked with colleagues and begin on the network telemetry framework. Until now, there's many telemetry work is being done, but the technologies and solutions may be different from each other. So we try to set up a whole picture with the try to have this clear picture. So we divided into 3 planes. So one is the management plane. So from our point of view, that the past years, the gRPC, netconf improvement, and the YAML model work, we think belong to this category. And second one is the data plane. So that related with the forwarding plane. The most promising technology and solution is the inbound OEM, is to try to collect more data and information from the forwarding plane. But now that we think that is a time to relate it with the control plane. So that means that we need to collect this information for the network maintenance for the control plane, because we think this is also important category to be done. So that's you can see that some work related with the enhancement of the BMP, and also we have extended it to the network monitoring protocol for more control protocol. Yeah, so this is the purpose for this one. Okay, so this is the motivation and introduction. So now we think the control plane monitoring the running status of control protocols will enable evolution towards automated network OEM. Yeah, so this is the primary purpose. So based on this, the purpose, network monitoring protocol is proposed to collect the protocol running status data. This including the protocol packets and the protocol statistics, and to export this data to the analytics station. Yeah, so we think this will facilitate the network troubleshooting. Yeah, so in this draft, we want not to boil the ocean. So just to propose the NMP for SS as an example. Yeah, so this is the existing work. Okay, so here we propose the use cases for using to justify the necessity of the NMP for the SS. In fact, we have encounter many network failures caused by the failure of control protocols. And also, we based on our internal statistics, there are almost near 50% is related with the failure of the control protocols. So here we propose several important use cases. First is the ISS neighbor down, because this is popular failures. There's different reasons. This is the mismatch of the parameters, and also maybe the field of the circuit. So this can cause the ISS neighbor down. So this is the first cases. Second is the LSP synchronization failure, because this is also related with the packet of the IGP is flooded in the network, but because of the error of the packet of all of the error of pass the control packet, so that's called the failure of the LSP synchronization. And the third one we propose that is the forwarding plane disconnection. So that means we can use a pin, the forwarding plane mechanism to test this one. But some use cases, the pin doesn't work, but because the MTU is inconsistent, it causes the user traffic forward failing. So we think this is another use cases. The fourth one is not proposed in the draft, but we think this is very popular. That is route flapping. In fact, the route flapping also can be caused by many reasons. In fact, ISS neighbor down is one type of the reasons, but it also has some other reasons. In fact, the route flapping, in my experience, I experience sometimes that time it will become a disaster for the network, because that is the IGP flooding characteristics. Once it is flapping, so all the routers will have the issue. So that causes the service, all the service cannot work well. Okay, so now that we see that existing troubleshooting method, so we know that now that once the failure happens, we try to manually log in the different devices and to check the router one by one. And also that even the one by one, because the huge information to be compared, including the LSP, including the link state. So that is called time consuming and label consuming. So this is that is also, you know, that the flooding is very fast. If you cannot speed of the locator issue cannot catch up this the speed of the failure change, you become more difficult to locate the failure. Yeah, so this is also the challenge for the existing troubleshooting methods. So based on this one, we would like to set up some this automated network troubleshooting mechanism that is cannot depend on only the manpower. We hope that most of the work can be done by the machine. Yeah, so that's the point. Okay, so in order to solve this the issue, we propose the two options. One is from our point for the control plane. In fact, we don't want to split this work or distribute the work to a lot of protocols. We think we should converge it to one protocol is enough. Just like this, the management that is a gRPC or netconf. And also that for the control plane, some this the in-band OEM. So for the control plane, we think if it's necessary, the answer is only one protocol. Yeah, so we think the possible option, the first option, we think the BMP is a great example for this work. Because though we have some doubt about the BMP, but definitely BMP is a existing good example for reference. So we think we can reuse the BMP and also that we can extend the BMP for this purpose. So that is can reduce the effort of the, I think reuse the BMP and to take advantage of the BMP for the incremental deployment and also reduce the implementation efforts. So this is the first option. But I also mentioned that the BMP has its own scope specified clearly in the GROW working group. So we think maybe now that is earlier to do like this one. So firstly, temporarily, we take the option 2 to propose as a new network monitoring protocol. That is independent from existing BMP. Yeah. Okay, so here this is just give the example about this one. In fact, to be honest, it's similar like the BMP. Yeah, it's the TCP session based. And also this is the message. From my point of view, the most important message is the PDU monitoring message. I mean the export this is the PDU directly to the analytics station for further analysis. Okay, so this is the message format. I will not talk about the details. In fact, for me, this is the most important to discuss why this work. Okay, so this is the slides for this one. Firstly, I must say sorry because before this the IETF meeting, I'm very busy with many affairs. Okay, but here, let is say thanks to these experts to pay attention to this work. We collect many comments from the mailing list. So I think thanks to AC, Raddy, and Jeff, and I'm not sure, Anna. Is Anna here? Okay, sorry. That Robert here, I don't know. Wilton here. Okay, maybe sorry. Okay, and also that the team has some family members not here, and also say thanks to Greg Skinner. Okay, and here I list there are the comments for the draft. So here, this is the summary of the comments. The most important two comments is why not gRPC young. Second one is why not BGP link state. So I will propose the 2 slides to explain the details. And the third one is the history for reference. I also believe the word forget history, dooms to repeat it. Yes. In fact, we are also the part of the history. In the past years, I'm involved in much work of the gRPC, netconf, and YANG. But just based on the experience, I think it's not satisfying enough. It triggered me and my colleagues to seek complementary solutions. We try to combine the solutions with the existing work to set up a better solution to facilitate network OEM issues. Okay, and also some suggestions to refine the draft. Okay, we will refine this draft accordingly for better quality in the future version. Okay, now I will first explain the most important 2 comments. The first, why not gRPC and YANG? Okay, the first most important work, I think for YANG work, I appreciate the YANG model work. In fact, I also do a lot of work. I understand this is a very exhausting network, because we wanted to use it all in one. So it can, that is for the management plane, but in fact for our IP features, too many features. So there are too many models, and these models has a relationship with each other. Yeah, at the same time, the netconf, sometimes we need to change the mechanism. Once the mechanism is changed, such as NMDA, so almost all models should be refreshed and updated. So this is the work, it truly should be appreciated. But on the other hand, so this take other challenge for this work. So that is take a long time, cannot catch up the existing application. So I talk in the RTG working group, once you cannot catch up the application, so it causes the negative circle. Yeah, so they use the private model. When the private model stand here, they would not like to change it to the new one or the standard one. So I think this is a challenge for this work. So from this point of view, so I think for some specific issues, for some specific works, maybe we use the other solutions. It can be solved some the cases one by one. So you can easily for the incremental deployment. From this point of view, I think for you some of this control protocol may be suitable. So this is the first thing. The second thing I said, for example, is I said for the monitoring the control protocol, the most important work may be monitoring the error of the control packet, protocol packet, because some failure of the packet of the control protocol, it causes the failure of the network. In fact, internally, we simulate how to use the gRPC to monitoring the packet. So I think if you use the traditional way, so first we must to pass the packet firstly. So that is, so then we set up this YANG model for the data through the gRPC to export it to the controller or the collector. So I think there must be one work in the device side. That means pass the TLV of the control packet to the YANG model. We think this is just a repeat work. On the other hand, this will again to add too much work to the young model design. It will again to that is make heavy burden for the existing young model design. Okay.
Rob Wilson, Cisco. So one quick comment. Yang can encode binary data, so you can carry binary data in Yang. So there's no need to translate the PDU into equivalent Yang data structure. You just carry it as binary data if you wanted to.
I see how you this one how you I agree that maybe you have some of the binary or the gRPC to export the data, but you must have some of this the format. So what's the format?
The leaf carries binary data. You just define the leaf as saying it carries this PDU, and you define it as being an ISIS PDU. I mean, that's well defined.
Okay, maybe I would like to talk about this question. Yeah, so I think if this one, so I think if this can be done, so I would like to take this as a possible solution. Yeah, in fact, if we can convert this to the gRPC, so we will not take, maybe we need not to take this another that is the protocol. So that's the purpose. So in fact, for our purpose, you not to try to create new protocols. Yeah, we just use the purpose is get the right protocols. Yeah. Okay, so here that's is some this the based on maybe maybe our the analytics is not enough, but at least I think this defend young model to some extent already scared me and my colleagues. Yeah, so that is we think the BMP we use the TRV we think is maybe that is for better incremental deployment. So here we list this some this difference between this managed plane telemetry and the control plane telemetry. Yes, but some this even for the traditional management of telemetry, I agree that they are also improving now. But I, in fact, to be honest, I worry about its speed of the standardization to catch up the existing application. Yeah. Okay, next one is the why not BGP link state. So I think this things from our point of view. At the beginning, we think about this the use cases. But yeah, here the use case is proposed in our draft. Sure, it maybe can be solved by the BGP link state because the BGP link state can export some information for the IGP. But the purpose is not only for the IGP and maybe for the future. So the first thing. The second thing I think that is the BGP link state from our point is the operation for the network provisioning for the service is not for monitoring. We should decoupling the monitoring from the control protocol. This is the basic principle. We cannot that in order to monitoring protocol,
Robin?
Yeah.
I think when this was suggested, it wasn't apparent that you were trying to get the actual PDUs. I don't think anybody would suggest putting all the PDUs in BGP link state.
Yeah, so that's one.
I think people thought you just wanted the link state itself, not every PDU.
Yeah, I agree with this one. So I think that's I just
Maybe
okay.
you don't need to go through the whole thing. That's what I was getting at.
Yes.
Okay.
Else we will demand your exact detailed argument why DNS cannot be used.
Okay, yeah. So I agree with this one. So I think that's because I just list here is just mention that one BGP link state maybe solve this the use cases proposed in draft, but in fact it cannot solve the purpose of our work. So that is the description here. Okay, so
Bush IIJ. May I suggest that what's happening is that I think many people agree with you on a need for getting these data and getting these data in useful, regular, cross-platform, yada, yada, yada. The semantics are not yet well worked out, and we've walked around this for some years, but arguing about the syntax in which you're going to express it, there is no proof of termination. We can have this discussion for a long while, but you're chasing the wrong end of the animal, right?
Okay, so we have this summary about this work. The first one, I agree. The opinion that we think there exists a difference between the control plane telemetry and the management plane telemetry. But maybe if we think they can merge together, so we can also try to solve the possibility. Yeah, at least until now, we think this exists difference between the two types of the telemetry work. Yeah, we think that for the control plane telemetry, the major purpose for it is to monitoring the control protocol, and also especially for monitoring the packet of the control protocol. And second one, we also agree that the control plane protocol and the management plane telemetry, the control plane telemetry and the management telemetry margins may overlap. This is just as the past years. You can also use the netconf to steer traffic. You can also use the PCE, use BGP to steer the traffic. So that's the same. This is for the CPT and the MPT. The second opinion, we think the use cases proposed in the draft to justify the necessity of the NMP. Yeah. Regarding this opinion, we have additional points. First, they do not exclude the possibility of other methods. Yeah. So the second one, that is according to our NTF work, the different telemetry work can be combined together for better solutions. You should not exclude each other, because there's different use cases may use a different solution, or maybe use a combined of the solution. Okay. Last one, this one, just like the debates between management and the control debates for SD-WAN over the past years. In the past years, as in the IETF, at the beginning, they always debates about what's management, what's control. After several years, I think we learned some lesson. The first one, so this is the combined solution, maybe the better choice. Yeah, the second one said the different solution may be used for the similar issues, but they have the different requirement. Yeah. For example, for the traffic steering, at that time, at the beginning, no BGP SR policy, no PCEP, we have to use the netconf. But at that time, they also agree that the netconf performance is not satisfactory. Yeah, but now that the BGP SR policy is available, they will transfer from the netconf-based network traffic steering to the BGP-based traffic steering. So we think this is similar for the management and the control plane telemetry network. Maybe the different requirements, different phase, you choose a different solution. Okay, last one, we believe the requirements and the running code to justify the necessity. Okay, so now this is the next steps. First, we close the existing comments. So then we will solicit more comments, feedback, and more use cases. So this is not in the IETF community. We also communicate with many of these operators and OTTs to this about their operation communities to collect their opinions. Yes. So in fact, based on my exchange information with the IT community, I think they are very flexible and open for a lot of and flexible tools. Yeah, so I think that's the core that for there can solve some issue better for the maintenance, for the compute resource and the storage resource. I think the network should also take some right away and also to borrow some experience from this community. Okay, so this and also this is the next one. We will detail the analysis of different methods for advantage and disadvantage. Okay, okay, that's all my presentation. Okay.
Rüdiger for Deutsche Telekom. Can we go back one slide? I believe your stated starting point is kind of misleading you. You are starting from creating a compartmentization of information based on, well, okay, some semantic concept. And then discuss protocols for this. Actually, I think you should recognize that there are, as I can tell, 3 behavioral types of information that are of concern. Flowing data like BMP is, and where BMP is used for tracking what happens in a BGP session in the form of the exchanged protocol PDUs. State in the devices as typically modeled in young models these days, and events. And I think that seems to be a fairly complete classification of what is of concern. Dealing with these 3 very different behavioral types of information is something that needs to be addressed by appropriate protocols. For the tracking of flying protocol information, one could use lawful intercept techniques without, well, okay, yeah, you can probably use every box that's out there right now for doing that. And yes, you have to do something at the back end to process the stuff. For the stuff that's in that's state of the boxes, we have the young models, and there may be some gaps which better be identified. And every transfer of information of state, in this time and date, is well advised to use the young models and appropriate coding representation. With the events, I'm actually a little bit unsure what I should say, but the more experienced and deeper into implementation colleagues probably have answers for that. And I think your distinction between control and management plane does not really go for this behavioral type classification, does not go much farther that, well, in the control, in the management plane, kind of the state of the devices and the management of that state is of more concern, and there is fairly little of flying data that can be intercepted by the authorized authority. Well, okay, of course, in what you call the control plane, yes, there is the protocol exchange that has to be taken care of. But I think telemetry is streaming telemetry concepts and protocols and implementations are available for all. Jeff may come in with questions about, well, okay, how to correlate stuff. But deciding to go one way or the other for a protocol that is appropriate either for tracking protocol exchange or management of state information and force the other behavioral type into that protocol is just a bad idea. And well, okay, if you want to go there, yes, you have lots of work to do. And we rather want to avoid that.
Okay, thank you. I want to, yeah, I thanks your the comments. Yeah, but to be honest, I this one, I wanted to this one. This always some work is overlapped. Yeah, but you know that even we emphasize this young model. But on the other hand, I would like to say even the BGP or some of the IGP, the packet use the TRV. That is also the model. Yeah, so that is in fact, so to this point already overlapped. Yeah, so that is very difficult to clarify a clear boundary between this work. This is my point. So that is intuitively, I think I like the BMP. At least is the example. No, even we cannot clarify the boundary clearly, but intuitively, you know, your model is one thing, BMP is another thing. Yeah, maybe it's not belong to the control plane telemetry, but we think is we can try, or we can combine some of this together. Yeah, so that's my point. Okay, so
Hi, I'm relaying a comment from the Jabber Room from Sandy Murphy, speaking for herself. And she says, can I express some skepticism about, quote, requirements and running code to justify the necessity finally, unquote. And that's the whole comment.
Okay, so that's is my belief. Maybe just that's okay.
AC Lindum again. I think I agree. Rudiger did a real good job of classifying those as, I'm not saying these are the only types of management data for a protocol, but of classifying those three types as the intended and implied configuration, the events, and then the actual PDUs on the air on the wire. I'd also say that if you have an absolute requirement to get every one of the last one, the PDUs, I don't think necessarily doing it exactly like it was done for BMT for the IGPs is a good idea. I think a better model might be something like how it was done for IPFix. You have a standard records and you collect it and push it, you know, because it's coming, because you can, you know, IGBs can have these, and then, you know, these real, and there's no TCP to slow them down, and so something more like IGP where you're saving it in IPFix and then pushing all those PDUs for something to crank on it might be a better model for it if that is really required.
Yeah, I think that's thanks for your suggestion. Yeah, in fact the IPFix has ever been our one option. We have to do some of the work on this one. Yeah, but we will later we will have more analysis. Yeah. Okay.
Chris. Excuse me, Mauro, Google. I'm not entirely sure this is, I think maybe somebody asked this yesterday in OPSAID BG, sort of where are you trying to go with this? It seems like you presented it here as a more of an informative thing, like, hey, we're trying to work on this thing. What do you think? Is that about right for the first part? Okay. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of global BGP operations work in this, and so I'm not sure that it's particularly well fit for Grow. I think the ops area probably is the right place, ops area work, ops AWG, but I struggle with a lot of the same points that have been brought up. It seems in some ways like a solution looking for the problem, and maybe at least there are existing tools that kind of do some of this already. Having run a couple of large networks for a couple of years, I haven't really run into this sort of problem that you are outlining here. Like I can mostly get what I need done, and maybe I'm just not as creative, but I don't know. So I mean, I would say it certainly seems like you're working hard on something. Try there.
I know AC Lindum. I know at least for OSPF, there are people doing passive monitoring,
Mm.
where they will bring up, a matter of fact, one operator actually had a mechanism where they bring up a neighbor and they didn't want it ever to route, so they kept it in the exchange state with never going full. It was kind of caused lots of problems, but just so they could get, but they weren't, but the thing about that, because at least within a flooding domain, ostensibly everybody has the same copy of the database. So they would only do, they wouldn't peer with every router in an area. Like your picture, you had complete fan out for the IGP to every one of them, and everybody sending every PDU they ever. I don't know that is, there may be certain classes of problems that will help you, but I don't know if there's enough of them over just monitoring a few, one in each flooding scope or two in each flooding scope, just in case it gets partitioned. That I'm getting down to details, but I don't think the BMP approach is the right approach for IGPs.
Okay, so this I agree with this one. So yeah, this from our counter view. So that's the one purpose of this draft. That's as an example. We not use directly to define the protocol for the export all the PDU or like this the packets of the IGP out. In fact, we first to define these possible use cases. So that maybe that is for example, the neighbor down is related with the hello PDU, so it can export it. We don't want to flood it. This is the protocols that that every PDU will be defined for this protocol. Yeah, maybe later, if all the issues won't solve, maybe at last that is all the PDU be exported. But until now, that is not our purpose. If that one is very simple, we need not to identify any use cases, just can list all the PDU. Yeah, so that's the purpose. Okay.
Randy Bush, IIJ hat only, i.e. I'm a researcher. I have IS monitors in the mesh in one global network. I have OSPF monitor in the mesh in one global network. They do not always, the difference between two monitoring points is interesting, but probably only to a researcher. I would also note that packet design has products in this area that are rather tasty. But operators don't seem to be interested. It's hard enough to get them to look at their damn BGP, let alone their IGPs.
Sorry, from the peanut gallery, Chris again. I agree that there are packet design, NetVMG, lots of folks who build, or you can custom build your own, which some people do if they're crazy, ISIS or OSPF monitors. And if you're running a large network, you're going to need information about your IGP, but that exists today. Right? I don't need something. I'm not looking for something new here. Right? I have the thing. I think there's
Why are you aiming at me? I think that's one
hey.
thing I just said.
No, I agree. Yeah. Right. Well, but I would say that there are lots of large networks that do this monitoring today. Yeah. Right. I mean, I know pretty much every large network I interact with has a form of that monitor. So, and they have it, so they're not looking for something particularly new. That's all I was trying to say. Sorry.
Okay, I see.
AC Lindum. So I think what we're saying is, is there any standardization needed for this type of information other than the standardization in the IGPs that already exists? Do you need to wrap it up in something to deliver it to a collector? And I think the answer is more to the negative than the positive, that we really need this.
To add to that, I think from a charter perspective, well, let's start with BMP first. The B in BMP stands for BGP, so I think it will not be appropriate to include ISIS information in BMP feeds.
Hello.
Oh.
And from a Grow Charter perspective, I'm not confident at this point that we should be working on link state monitoring protocols.
Randy Bush, IIJ. I would note there's the relevant AD is even left.
Okay, let's close the line after John's comment. Oh, sorry, what John is going to relay.
No, I'm just carrying my laptop around to keep my hands warm. John Scudder, at the risk of continuing this conversation even longer, sorry, please do not take this as support for the proposal, but I do want to say that if it were going to proceed forward, I would rather see one protocol, even if you have to change the B to stand for, bag instead of BGP. I would rather see, one protocol rather than taking the protocol and doing a cut and paste and, name change because it has the wrong name on it. That's all.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Okay.
I think this was the last presentation.
Last presentation. Quick, everyone go someplace where it's warm. Hurry up, it's warm elsewhere. Go. See you next time.
Thank you for your time. We'll see you in Bangkok at IETF 103. Thank you. That's right.